Hey, this is Susan Palmer of LeadCat Press, and this is my weekly studio update. Thanks so much for tuning in. Today I want to talk about something that I'm very passionate about, which is learning your instrument. And that is something that comes up every day in my music studio because it's my jam. That is what I try to do as a teacher. I help students learn their instrument, learn the fundamentals of music on guitar, and I do it for the number one reason is so that students can access more music. If you have a good understanding of your guitar, then, you're going to be more successful in music school. You're going to be able to get more out of the master class that you're going to. The book you are reading on, advanced harmony or reharmonizations, all of that stuff is going to be a lot easier if you know your instrument. And so kind of my deal as a teacher is helping students access that, finding pathways, learning schemes, accountability and structure to help students accomplish that. And I have 2 guitar method books which cover the fundamentals of music. I would really suggest that any music student who's going to be attending music school know the concepts that I've got in volume 1 really well. I think you're going to have a much better experience at music school if you already know that stuff before walking in the door. And I believe that the music school would greatly appreciate that as well, because then you're going to be more successful in their program. And I think that, all schools want their students to be successful, or at least I would hope that that is the case. So anyways, what I want to get to today is it's a topic that I posted briefly about on Instagram this week, and I had such positive feedback from my students and fellow teachers on there that I wanted to make sure that I talked about it on my YouTube weekly address as well. And what it is some ear training exercises that also involve getting to know the notes on your guitar. And this is something that you can do in conjunction with all of your other guitar studies that you're practicing each day. But it is something you could isolate as well and just, kind of do this 25-minute daily practice. And then the rest of your time that you have for guitar, play some tunes, have some fun, learn some different stuff, whatever piques your interest really. But this is some really good foundational work that I think is beneficial for guitar players of all levels. So I'm going to kind of break it down in some ways that change according to your level of understanding on the instrument. I also want to preface with, I've got, I love worksheets. So I've got worksheets and flashcards for you on my website. So use the link below and, you can access all of that information along with this video. I created a few different jam tracks for YouTube for students to use that stay in each key or each chord for 2 minutes each. And then they cover all 12 chords. I did this because I'm a big fan of timers when I'm practicing or when I'm encouraging students to practice. Some things you cannot master in, a day, or, it takes the repetition of doing that. And, playing things in 12 keys, I think is one of those concepts that, it's just something that we're always going to be reviewing and going a little deeper on. And so timers are a good way to feel a sense of accomplishment with your practice. So while you might not memorize something or, really learn something well in one practice session, if you're doing it every day, for 2 minutes, you're going to get there eventually. And so having that timer, I found, is a much better way to mark that accomplishment for each day. So you can say, I did my work, I can move on and do something fun, rather than having that heavy feeling of, oh, I didn't finish the thing, I still don't know it that well. So, this timer work I found is really helpful. But what is not helpful, as you probably know, are our phones and other distractions. So while I liked using timers on my phone, I found that, with students, we all just get distracted. And, so I created these jam tracks that, spend 2 minutes in each key, cover all the keys. So there's a built-in timer. So you put the thing on, you do your work, and you're done. So here's the work. I'm going to put the track on here. This first one we're going to cover is the major 7 chords, and we're going to start with C major 7. And here's kind of the idea, if this will play for me. First step is just to play all of the root notes for each one of these chords on each string. So I'm going to start with my low E string. So I've got C and then C. I'm just playing all of the C's as I go. And maybe that's something, you just repeat, a few times until you're like really seeing and hearing those notes. Now, I used my first finger to play all those notes, but you may want to try it, with different fingers, because sometimes the orientation of the instrument changes depending on what finger we use. I don't know why that is, but, challenge yourself with that and see what you think. Now, the next step would be to play the thirds of the chords. And since we're still in C major, our third is E. So next up, you would play, all of the E's. And maybe you do that and you're like, all right, I know that. That's easy. And if that's the case, try to build a musical phrase off of the third for each one of those chords. So you've done the thirds. And then, play another phrase on another E. And so with doing that, you're going to really get to know how those thirds sound. Next, you're going to do the fifth and then the seventh on that. It'll be a major seventh for the major seventh chords. And, maybe that's something that feels pretty easy to you, in which case, that's great. I've got minor seven, dominant seven, altered chords and more for you, and I'll put those all on my website so you can find all of those chord tones and all the keys as well. But if you're more of a beginning level player or intermediate level player, you're like, I understand the concept of that, but how do I know what the thirds are? Like, I need to go back. So on the worksheets on my website for you, not only do I have a little daily practice routine for you for these, but I also put a little study chart on each of these as well that spells out the root, third, fifth, and seventh for each one of these chords. So I've got one for the majors, there's one for dominant and one for minor as well. And, the way that I practice this stuff and the way that I encourage people to practice it is, just cover up, cover up the third, and then you can just kind of peek over to double check your work to make sure that you've got those thirds. So you could study that each day and, kind of use that as a quiz if you don't already know those. I would suggest knowing them on paper or, mentally before putting them on your guitar. If you're going through all of the keys, just because I think that's helpful for the learning process. But that's my experience. You may find a different way works better for you. So by all means, do the way that works best for you. But that's my experience with that. So like I said, I've got the PDFs there for you with the practice routine for these and also the study charts for each one of those three chords. I also threw in the packet, I have some flashcards for the major seven, minor seven, and dominant seven chords. So that's also included in the packet on my website. So, if you're a little bit further along and you just, you want to have something that's not your phone, that you can kind of refer to and quiz yourself on those, that might be something. You will have to figure out how your printer works in order to get the front and the back to line up. I was able to do it on mine, but, so that may take a little bit of finagling. I haven't put these on an app. They have flashcard apps and stuff. I haven't put them on an app because I just find phones to be really distracting for this kind of work. And, I'm just about, I want you to get your practice done, learn something, learn your instrument, learn a little something different every day and reinforce something that you know a little bit deeper, and then get on with your playing. Like, go play some songs, have some fun. And I like to say, I always like to ask my students, like, let me know when this stuff is coming to the surface, Like a lot of stuff we practice, it shows up, it becomes accessible to us after weeks or months. So it's always fun for me to see when that happens, but you don't have to force it. Just, do your work and then play some songs. So I hope that helps. If you have any questions, reach out, leave a comment. If you do this exercise, I'd love to see people learning their instruments. And I hope your year is off to a good start, and I'll be here next time.